Right. So the brain, the spine, the lifeline of your essay is what we call the thesis statement. You must have a thesis statement. Without a thesis statement, your essay has no direction and your essay has no purpose. It is a thesis statement that literally has in there the answer to your question, as well as the points that you are going to share in the essay. Okay? So if you have no thesis statement, your essay is going nowhere. Do not forget this. Your thesis statement is the brain of your essay, it's the spine of your essay, it's the lifeline of your essay, it's the rudder of your essay. All of those things that relates to controlling and keeping it alive and pumping blood and nurturing and feeding your essay, um, the seed of your essay, all of those things, that is your thesis statement. Do not forget it. All right. So here, let's examine the thesis statement a bit. The question said, describe one such character from the novel We're in Pink. You go down to your thesis statement and you would have now provided the first part of the question, an answer to the first part of the question. Okay, I'm supposed to describe one character. Okay, Napoleon is the character in the novel who used power, is a character in the novel who used power. The second part of the question says, explain how he uses it negatively. All right, well, the second part of my thesis statement said he uses it negatively. The third part of the question asked me to talk about one narrative technique, and so my thesis statement has in there an answer to that third part as well. So I said, and the third person narrator was used to show us how. So literally what I have done is answer in summary the question that is there, right? Notice the color scheme. The first part of my thesis statement has identified what I'm going to be using to describe the first part of the question. Second part of my thesis statement, etc., etc., right? And therefore, for the rest of the essay, this is what I must bear in mind. I must be answering the question. Know that I have given the skeleton in my thesis statement. When I go down into the body, I am going to give all the fluff, the proof, the evidence, the examples, all of those things to ensure that I answer the question in a fulsome, comprehensive, clear, and convincing way. Therefore, where can you find animals that can talk? Animal Farm, of course. The novel was written by George Orwell and is a representation of life in the Russian society. In the novel, we learn about the Russian Revolution and the leaders involved. Napoleon is a character in the novel who used power, but he did so negatively, and the third person narrator was used to show us how. So you notice that I have answered all the aspects of the question. Of course, I have not given any details because details are only given in the body. All right. And so you can go ahead and read through and let me know if I betrayed the color scheme. Okay. The first paragraph should be dealing with this one, describing the character. The second paragraph should be explaining how he used his power negatively. And the third paragraph should be discussing how one technique was used to show the use of power. Firstly, Napoleon was a character in the novel who used power. He was a pig of high birth and was very big. He was charismatic, but also deceptive. So the instruction said I should describe. Of course, I have to use adjectives and adverbs and adverbial phrases and adjectival phrases. And notice that I am using my transitional words and phrases, my firstly, my secondly, my finally, to organize my piece, right? He eventually got rid of Snowball, the other leader, so he could have absolute power. He used Squealer as his mouthpiece to deliver messages to the animals, but he often tweaked the rules to suit himself. He was very greedy and selfish and always took the best for himself, and he eventually transformed into somewhat of a human being. So I have described Napoleon because that is what the first part of the question said I should have done. Now let's go to the second part of the question. Explain how he used his power negatively. So that's the second part of the question. The second part of my thesis has the same thing. And now my second paragraph says, secondly, he used his power negatively. So you notice those same words are coming back in the second paragraph. They are also in the thesis and they are also in the question, right? When the apples were ready, he ensured that they were picked and stored for the pigs only. He also stole milk for himself. He killed the chicks and deprived the mother hens of their young ones when they did not do what he wanted. He trained some pups to be his vicious bodyguards and to keep the other animals terrified. He had Boxer work so hard that he eventually got sick, and he sold him to the glue maker while promising to take him somewhere nice. He laid down rules for the animals, such as no animals should drink alcohol or sleep in a bed or live like humans, but he and his friends were doing those very things, right? And then I could have continued to say that was how he used his power negatively, right? Now we go back again to the question. Always go back to the question because your aim is to answer the question. So you always want to ensure you're looking back at the question, You don't go and just write. Look back at the question, make sure you're doing what the question says. So the third part of the question says, discuss one narrative technique that was used to show how power was used. So we go down. Finally, George Orwell used the third person narrator to show how Napoleon used his power negatively. So notice my topic sentence has the character who used his power negatively and the device that was used. My thesis statement has the device that was used, and the question asked me about the device that was used, right? Let's not betray the color scheme, guys. Let's not betray the color scheme. Finally, George Orwell used the third person narrator to show how Napoleon used his power negatively. From the narrator, remember, if you say it's the narrator who was used, then you have to talk to me about the narrator. From the narrator, we learn about Napoleon's secret plan. Jessie and Bluebell were told that Napoleon was teaching them, educating them. However, the narrator shared that he was training them to be vicious and cruel. Of course, we're talking about the dogs, right? And teaching, let's do this, teaching and educating their pups. Right. All right. Another way, again, we use our transitional words and phrases to organize our essay. Another way he used his power negatively was when he used Squealer to change the rules and trick the animals. Each time they went to check the board to see if Napoleon was sticking to the commandments, the narrator showed us when Squealer used the paint. Yeah. And bucket to add or to change the commandments. For example, one commandment said that all animals were created equally or equal, but to get his own way, he added, but some are more equal than others. When the animals went to check, they saw the new commandment and they were not sure whether it was always there. However, since that was what was on the wall, they had to follow it. This gave him the right to do whatever he wanted, and that was abusing his power, right? Of course, I only give you 2 examples, But there are many other ways that Napoleon would have used his power negatively, and you can include those as long as you have the time. You'd want to give as many relevant examples as possible. But what I need you to see here is the connection that you must have between what the question is asking of you and what you do in each paragraph, right? So happy writing, and I'll see you next time.